You're listening to the Better in Bavaria podcast, hosted by U.S. Army Garrison Bavaria Public Affairs. We share stories and the people behind them, the soldiers and Army civilians supporting our readiness mission and making our community a great place to work, live, and raise a family.
Willkommen. Today is our very first remote for the podcast. We are in Munich, or how we Bavarians say, in Minga.
Thank you, listeners and subscribers, for sharing your time with us as we spotlight our garrison and what makes it so special. We packed up our production team and came all the way to Munich for this recording.
Yes, we have a great show for you. Today, we'll be talking about the American Consulate and its importance in Germany. You're going to really enjoy our special guest today, Consul General Timothy Liston.
Let's get started by, let me ask you why you think it is better in Bavaria.
Why is it better in Bavaria? Do you have a couple days to discuss
Yes.
this? Better in Bavaria, first of all, I love the title of this because there is so many great things in Bavaria, and it's better in Bavaria. Just starting with the friendliness of the Bavarians, with the people. We're so lucky to have a relationship that goes back over 7 decades here. And because of places like Grafenwöhr and Hohenfels, Ansbach, down in Garmisch, where I know everyone likes to go skiing, we've built up a friendship with our Bavarian hosts. And just the warmth and welcoming nature of the Bavarian people has been great. Now, of course, if you're going to ask me, why is it really better in Bavaria? I mean, I think we can start with the world-famous event, Oktoberfest. There are very few places. I mean, this is a festival that goes over like 2.5, 3 weeks, tracks 7.5 to 8 million visitors. Over 250,000 Americans come here.
That's incredible.
It's amazing, isn't it? And it's all fun. It's safe. People feel safe. And it's just really that brings a play. Munich opens its doors to the world. And the United States here, as Consul General, we play a big role to make sure that people are having a good time. They know the safety, the ground rules, and if things might go not the way they were hoping, that we're there to help and support them and give them the services that American citizens deserve and get.
There's a lot of good things. Do you also experience any cultural shocks in Germany or Bavaria?
You know, it's funny. I've been coming to Germany since I was a student back in the 90s. And, I get this question a lot. And I have to take a step back because my family, my wife is from east of Munich. She's from Zorneding. And my youngest daughter was born here. She's a Münchner Kindl. So for me, it's kind of my second home. Right? It's kind of an away game across town. And so I have to really take a step back when I think about all your folks who come over here sometimes for the first time abroad, and what it meant to be that student back in the early 90s coming here. And so I always think back to the time I arrived. First couple months is always awesome because you're realizing, wow, new place, I get to do new things. But then you realize you're not home and that maybe people aren't as outgoing, that you have to work extra hard to make a friend. And of course the language, right? You're challenged by a language that maybe you don't speak, you have never spoken before. German is not that easy. And those people who learn it have spent a lot of time learning the grammar and the der, die, das and whatnot. So it's not easy. So you kind of maybe get down, but you shouldn't. You shouldn't, and I'm sure I'm going to just a small anecdote. This is one of the things. Anecdote that I found was you go into McDonald's, right? And you order your fries and you order your Big Mac and you want a couple ketchups with it. They get ketchups and they charge you for ketchup. I mean, what? Or I want to get a Coca-Cola and I realize Coca-Cola is more expensive than beer. So this is kind of like...
That's true. I never thought of
it's
that.
Very true.
Yeah.
It's very true. So, these little things where those comforts of home all of a sudden become, I don't say challenges, but just not as you remember them. And then perhaps you're at the market and you're walking down the street and you want to buy some tomatoes or something and someone like bangs into you as it happens. Mm-hmm. And in America, like, oh my God, I'm sorry. Mm-hmm. Person just keeps on trucking down the street, doesn't say anything. So again, these are kind of things where as one-offs is not a big deal, but you think about this day in, day out, it can get a little challenging maybe, or a little discouraging. But all I tell people, don't get discouraged. These are small things. When you continue to look at the big picture, you're in a foreign country where folks like you, they're curious about you, they want to learn about you. There's so many clubs, there's the mountains, there are the castles to see, folk festivals. There's so much good. So I'm always just try to be their American self and think of, the glass is half full or even fuller to enjoy yourself over here.
I like that example about ketchup. What is it about Americans and ketchup?
Where are the free refills too, right? Free refills.
Or you need a deposit to get a shopping cart at the supermarket.
Yep, but it's not wrong. It's different, right? It's just different.
So I have a quick question. You mentioned your daughter. Is she bilingual?
Yes, both my kids are bilingual.
Oh,
They're
wow.
they both speak German fluently because they grew up with it. We were very religious about that, where we're saying, okay, Sandra will speak German to the kids growing up, and I'll speak English. They both go to school now in the United States or at the university, but they still run into time to time German athletes or German exchange students, and they just start speaking German automatically. And you see this relief, this amazing kind of awe that all of a sudden these German students can speak German and feel like at home. And my kids know that from being in school abroad in places where maybe we were in Vietnam, and all of a sudden kids speak English, and it's just like, wow, this is great. And they connect at a different level, which is really cool for both of them.
So it sounds like the diplomatic services are very parallel to the military, where families and the children have an opportunity to not only experience the culture by living in the country, but picking up another language. So that's amazing.
Yeah, it's true. And you'll only get to know people, I think, really beyond that superficial level is if you make the effort, and part of that effort to open the doors is language. So I always say just put a little elbow grease into it and to learn a couple words and phrases, and that is not only helpful for starting friendships and conversations, but also it's a sign of respect for the country that you're serving in.
So it sounds like you and your family are great integrated, and for me it's really great to hear that you like it here, especially as a Bavarian, that you like it here in Germany, in Bavaria. And I also see that our soldiers from the garrison, they're using a lot of your services. So you're doing a lot of great things for our soldiers and family members, also civilians and their family members.
Yeah, that's one of the biggest things that we do abroad. It's a priority for the U.S. consulate, not only here but throughout the world. Is one of our top priorities is American citizens and the services that we provide for them. Whether it's getting a new passport, renewing a passport, whether if you have a child, a certificate for birth abroad, or if you want to vote, if it's election year, you can send your ballots through the consulate. We provide a mailbox, you drop them, you go through your state, you get your ballot wherever you were last a resident, and we'll take care of mailing those for you. Those are basic services we provide. Some consulates provide Social Security services for those retirees that might need that. And then if things don't go so right, so unfortunately some things don't go right for you. If you lose your passport, if you're in distress, if someone passes abroad, we can take care of a death certificate. Those are things you hope never happen. But you should know that those are the services that you're entitled to when you're abroad. Now, of course, this makes life a whole bunch easier if you register with the consulate. So if you're a traveler or you're living over here, we always ask that you go on the website and register with the consulate. It makes it so much easier because around Bavaria, we have American citizen volunteers that should there be a crisis, should there be a natural disaster, we will go through them to contact those. And if we have your contact information, whether it's your cell phone, your email, it makes it that much easier to account for our American citizens in the consular district.
To have the pro here, I just want to double check that one question. When a soldier in Grafenwöhr gives birth to a baby, so the baby gets a passport, everything, still can become American president, right?
Yes, if you're an American citizen, no, that's very true. It's but with our military, that's an exception to being not being a natural born citizen. So don't worry. There could be a president somewhere right now in Grafenwöhr.
Let's put it out there right now.
Future president.
So I think your staff does such an amazing job. I had no idea about the volunteers that you have here, but your staff really makes a difference. And I just have to say that it's being a part of a Marine family, growing up from a Marine Corps daddy and a Marine Corps husband, that I think that folks in the Marine Corps don't know that you can serve in Europe, because it's usually not on the menu for Marines. So your security staff is top notch here.
Yeah, we're super lucky that we have our Marine security guards and our detachment, the DET. They're a super bunch of individuals, amazing young men, and really top of the class. And it's interesting to hear where all their backgrounds are so different. Some have served in the Middle East before this. Some have served in South America. They've been over in Asia. So they bring, again, wonderful thing about being in the Foreign Service is you bring so many different people together and different experiences and stories, and that's what makes our community so rich here, the diversity and the experiences that basically reflect America and the melting pot that we are.
And not to polish the apple, but y'all listeners, it's a big deal to be up here with the Consul General Liston. So your support staff, all your folks that work this out, it's really amazing. Thank you.
I always say, my old boss said, you don't have to be the smartest person in the room, you just have to be surrounded by them. And that is 100% true. We have a great staff that is committed to the mission, that understands the goals and what the importance of the transatlantic relationship is. It's not just me going out and give a couple speeches. It's the preparation work. It's bringing you in here. It's letting our security guys know. And it's a whole step to make sure that we can make this production that I can then talk to you both, reach a public, reaching in Bavaria and abroad, and try to explain what it is that I do here, right? What is it that the United States Consul General does? What is his goals, his objectives? And at the end of the day, it's bringing people together from the United States and Germany, and basically undergirded by common shared values and principles. And I know our soldiers here, and over the decades, generations now, it's kind of crazy to think about, have guaranteed our security and through European security. And so I always say, Graf, I told General Hilbert this, the former commander for 7th ATC, and I've told General Carpenter, is every day you give me 25,000 plus diplomats.
Wow.
Really,
Yeah,
you guys are
good to
diplomats
know.
on the ground, right? I mean, there's only one of me, and there are only 100 of us at the consulate. There are 25,000 of y'all up there in throughout Bavaria, doing our work, building that trust and that understanding with the local population, having those conversations, going to the clubs, going skiing, racing cars, whatever it is, hunting, fishing, whatever y'all do, that builds the relationship here. Even that makes it much stronger in terms of friendship and understanding. And it makes my job all that much easier and much even more fun than it already is.
That's a good point. I remember you speaking to our garrison commander, Colonel Poole, about diplomats on the ground. I think that was your term, and it was really powerful to hear that.
That's extremely important. It's something I don't take for granted. As a matter of fact, that I'm very thankful I have. And when I unfortunately have to leave, we all have to leave as diplomats after 3 years. I've told my successor, that's an asset that you have automatically built in that you should leverage and expand our public outreach. And so thank you to all the soldiers and families here in Bavaria that do our work every day for us.
Talking about leaving soon, do you also know where next assignment gonna be?
Funny enough, I seem to cannot be able to escape the Army's. I'll be going to San Antonio.
Oh.
And we have a new initiative called the Lewis Local Diplomats Initiative, where they send senior Foreign Service officers out to the cities in the United States. This year it's 5 cities, to basically raise the international presence of these cities. So San Antonio has requested a diplomat. And it's something that we need to do more of, that we've recognized, is diplomacy doesn't just happen between capital to capital. It happens between cities outside the capital and cities in other countries. And building those economic, political, diplomatic, and cultural relationships at the city level helps foster and advance U.S. foreign policy, just not from Washington to Berlin or Washington to Hanoi. And this is something that we're taking very seriously, that we have an office set up now for it. So this is kind of the pilot project. I get to do entrepreneurial diplomacy now for the next year. And in San Antonio, I know you all have Army has a big base there, the logistics hub. So I look forward to keeping in touch with Colonel Poole and others who may have served in Garrison, Bavaria at some point in time. And for us in the State Department, we want to also get the messages out that the State Department can help at the local and state level. And if I can go out and talk to kids or young NCOs or officers about what the State Department does, we're then helping to build a political military nexus that is an integral part of our whole diplomatic toolbox abroad.
I know you're going to be a big success because I already hear your conversation sprinkle with y'all.
Yeah.
It's making me very excited.
I must have lived in Virginia too long. But no, seriously, I'm from Jersey, which is, you can tell I've been out of the state for a long time.
But you're ready for Texas now with y'all.
You know what? I look as a whole new posting, right? It is. I've never been to Texas, so.
Whole new culture.
New culture. It's great.
It will be the Riverwalk, not the Oktoberfest anymore.
Yeah, I know. But hopefully I can bring back the mayor of San Antonio, who I'll be working for, to Oktoberfest to continue to building the Transatlantic bridge through Munich.
When we hear about the giant Oktoberfest in Texas, we'll know who started the big expansion project.
Right. That's right. But San Antonio has a great history of German immigrants.
Really?
Settled at Fredericksburg, in the Hill Country, is settled by a lot of German immigrants back in the 19th century. Actually have vineyards there.
Really?
Yeah. So I was saying the same thing mere months ago until I started doing the research. I'm like, yeah. So there's definitely synergies there. San Antonio has a very strong relationship with the University of Darmstadt. So the educational exchanges are there. Cybersecurity is another big growth industry, and that's something that I'll be hoping to build on when I'm there and helping the mayor expand the international footprint of San Antonio.
Perfect. Consul General, don't you think Americans are surprised when they come to Germany and they see so many brand names that they used or knew about in the United States, but really their origins are in Germany? Like, I know Adidas and Bosch and Porsche, and I'm kind of embarrassed to say it wasn't till recently that I looked at the BMW logo and someone told me that the flag is what's behind the BMW logo, the Bavarian flag.
Yep.
So there's just so many more like that.
Talking about brands and business, I'm very interested how you support the business landscape and how you're bringing American and German business together.
Yeah, that's a great question, and I think it just shows, Linda, as you were talking about these brands that we've always used. In Germany, for example, just another one down right here in Munich, Texas Instruments. It's been here since the late 60s, early 70s, and it's been here so long and so part of the community that people forget it's Texas Instruments. It's actually an American company, Texas Instruments. And they know it's been here for forever.
I thought it was Texas.
But it's true, and it just shows that the depth and extent of the economic and business relationship we have with Germany. Bosch has always been there, and we want to encourage that trade, and that's really one of my main jobs here, is to increase American exports to Bavaria, but also to encourage German companies to invest in the United States. I think a perfect example, you mentioned BMW. They are in Spartanburg now, and they've been in Spartanburg since the 90s, and they have been really kind of the driver behind the astronomical growth that part of South Carolina has experienced. And it's not just coming there to be a factory and build things. It's BMW has integrated itself into the community. And when you say BMW, that's a car company, but then there are other German car part companies, electronics that need to come there. So it's a whole kind of economic ecosystem that you're creating. And this is the sweet spot of a part of our foreign policy now, and that is foreign policy for the middle class. President Biden speaks continuously about that. That means bringing the best of wherever in the world, in this part, Germany, having them invest in the United States and create good jobs. And it's not screwdriver turning jobs, it's jobs where you train a workforce. And I've told my German business counterparts, one of the best German exports you can ever do is the dual system, the workforce development system that Germany has had for decades. And they are implementing that in the United States. And BMW is one of many companies that does this, where they work with the state to create a feeder system from the technical high schools or technical colleges, train these folks, have them go to school, and then work for BMW. It's a model. There are other companies that have used this, and it's very much welcomed by the governors and the mayors, the county executives around the United States, and it's catching on. And this is one of the things where the more we can foster this kind of exchange, the more integrated German companies become in the United States, the more they are part of our communities. And just like Texas Instruments here, Microsoft, Google has their huge campus here. Apple's building their research and development.
I had no idea. Did you know all this, Andreas?
No, not everything.
Yeah, so this is all just kind of, again, the richness that is the economic relationship that we have with Bavaria.
And interesting that you mentioned the dual system. Even we, the garrison, using that system.
Mm-hmm.
We have apprentices in the garrison. Also, we in the public affairs office, and we have great experience with it. To have the apprentices both in a practical experience and at school. That's really a very positive environment for them.
Yep, I couldn't agree more. And having this as one of the Germany's major exports, Bavaria's major exports, can only help build a stronger transatlantic relationship.
And that leadership development program, I can't pronounce it, but
Dual system?
must build a lot of.
I can just build a dual system.
There you go. Must build a lot of loyalty in the staff, the workers.
It does.
Employees.
It really does, because you've brought an industry or you brought a company to that community, and they want to invest in the people. And that means you become an integral part of that community, and you build the trust of the individuals, and you're giving them good paying jobs. And at the end of the day, people just want to provide for their family, want a better future, and these companies are helping them do that. So there's a relationship, and it's showing up Friday nights at the football games, sponsoring things, really kind of embracing the welcomeness of whatever community they're investing in and making them an integral part of it, which is again just another part of the great transatlantic relationship that we enjoy.
And I can see why Americans love German products so much. You think about Germany, you think about precision, right, and just good quality things.
Yeah, I know. But we've used the appliances, German appliances, for ages. In my mom's house, she has a German appliance that she just replaced. I think she is 25, 30 years old. So yeah, there is that, and the quality control. BMW has done extremely well, and there are other. Volkswagen is produced in the United States. There are a lot of German companies that are looking to expand, and they have brand recognition. And then over here, the same thing. My university at Wisconsin uses Adidas, University of Wisconsin football team. So it goes both ways. But at the end of the day, you have brand recognition on both sides. And that comes from decades and decades of building this relationship up with Germany, with Bavaria, and with the EU. And this is what we want to just continue to do and make sure that our companies have free and fair trade here, and it works both, trade works both ways, and this side and the other side of the Atlantic.
And when you were talking about products and appliances, it's user error. It's not the product, but the washer, the dryer, and the oven. I still have to look at a cheat sheet for the Fahrenheit to Celsius, and the dryer where you have to take out the water.
Yeah, I got it. And the other thing is, basically there should be a Rosetta Stone for like washer and dryer hieroglyphics, right? Because I'm like, what is this? And okay, I get the Celsius, but what am I doing with this triangle, and what am I doing with this little sunshine thing?
Right.
Yeah.
So for the listeners, on the machine, it has, if you translate it, has like cupboard dry, iron dry, which is still slightly damp that you would press. So there's lots of variances in how your clothes can get dry.
Yeah, and this is where it's nice to have the internet, because you
Yes.
just go on there and the old Google will hopefully steer
It's
you
good to
correctly.
learn new things.
And the German dryer takes 5 times longer, so it's still working. It's still good. It's what
I'm
it is.
glad
right?
you said that, not me.
Yeah, when I came here, there were really no dryers. Back in the '90s, the dryers were kind of a luxury. So when I was living at the university, I would have my cardboard T-shirt that I would put on, because you have to air dry everything.
Wow.
Yeah. So, but every time I see a dryer, I'm like, that's all good. This is, this is.
But that's a
It
sign
works.
of spring, not just the flowers, but everybody has their clothes lined. So, Andreas and Consul General, I'm sad to say that I only recently realized that I've been saying Adidas wrong my whole life.
You've been saying it correctly. Adidas is how I grew up saying it. Then I came over here, and it's actually Adidas. So
And by the way, Puma and Adidas, they are brothers who founded the company.
No
that's
way.
right. That is absolutely right.
The sneaker folks are brothers?
But I guess one of the biggest surprises, and we were talking about, different brands and brand recognition and global brands. Of course, Nike is one of the biggest sports ones. And over in the last couple of weeks, it was announced that Nike has now won the contract to sponsor the German national soccer team, which is a big coup as far as the American executives, American company be able to do this, because it usually is Adidas or Adidas. So again, though, global recognition, Nike's global recognized. We use Adidas. A lot of college teams. My university, my alma mater, Wisconsin, used Adidas for a long time. I still believe they do. But we wouldn't be the only university. You can go through it, and that just shows the ubiquity of these brands and how good and robust our trade is between our two countries. So,
And it's interesting globally that people recognize these. No matter where you live, you
right.
recognize those.
I mean, Air Jordans are, ubiquitous, like one of the most sought after shoes. But now, one of the great things about being Consul General is you get to go to all these places. So I got to go to Adidas, and I got to see Muhammad Ali's shoe there, signed, because Adidas makes boxing shoes. That's one of the big things. Puma, a couple of the golfers, Puma. Greg Norman was always big into Puma. And now Ricky Fowler is one of the big guys. And they have all their stuff. And they have these museums and these archives. You go into it. It's fascinating. And it's one of the perks of the job, right? To see what role sports has played throughout our relationship with Germany, and most recently, of course, the NFL is here, and it's just one of the great parts of the job is being able to visit some of these companies and see it and touch and feel what we're just talking about today.
So when you brought up the golfers, I think golfers now, this is my opinion, are kind of like NASCAR. They have all the sponsors and everything all over them, on their bag, on their glove, everywhere. So.
Yeah, I wish I had those sponsors. Playing golf, I love golf. I wish I had some of these sponsorships. That'd be fantastic.
So, Consul General, I'm finding this fascinating, and you could probably write a book on your experiences. So thank you for sharing your stories and your anecdotes. I think one of the challenges we all face here, and we're talking about a little bit right now, is that initial culture shock of living in a foreign country. And then, you had your family over here, but they seem, they have that German footprint. So that feeling of realization in culture shock that the rules or the assumptions you had are just not the same in your reality. Even something simple as not being able to run a shopping errand on Sunday. So do you remember you've been here a while, but do you remember some of those that you had?
Yeah, I was just, back when I studied here in the 90s, it wasn't just Sundays everything was closed. It's like things closed at 12 o'clock on Saturdays, and you had one day per month that was open till 4 o'clock on Saturday.
And Monday to Friday until 6.
Exactly. So everyone's either at school or working, and how do people do shopping? It was always... So when you went in there, it was a mad rush to get things done, and then this goes back to what I was saying. I was talking about is people bumping into each other because they're trying to get their shopping done, not saying sorry, and that can kind of get discouraging and kind of give you that kind of culture shock feeling. But these are just, again, minor things. I try to always look at the positive. It's like, okay, I guess I have to get up early, or I have to, manage my schedule, and talk to other people because everyone's going through the same thing. Or try to make friends with locals who can help you navigate through some of these challenges. It's all about putting the effort in, I think, and making those friendships and collegial relationships that help you navigate a country that, from a lot of times it looks the same, it kind of feels the same, but it's different. We're halfway around the world, and it can be exciting and thrilling, but there can be those times when it's not so exciting and thrilling. And there's some things you can control, like how you interact with people. There's some things you can't control, like the weather, right? The weather over here, particularly if you're from the sunny Southwest or a sunshine belt, it can be a little demoralizing sometimes. But that's where you try to find those activities that kind of bring you up, whether it's, kicking a soccer ball around, playing basketball, going out fishing, getting to some of the clubs. And that's a wonderful thing about Germany. I'm sure up in Bavaria, in Grafenberg, Hohenfels, you have these outlets and these kind of built-in social networks. If you make the effort, people welcome you with open arms. And that's kind of some of the best ways to cut through sometimes the culture shock that can hit you.
Consul General, talking about exciting things to do, I've heard you have like a place to surf almost in your backyard here.
Yeah, the ice becken right down the street. As a matter of fact, a couple of us here at the Consulate are surfers and go out there. And I never get tired of looking at it. There are people there 24/7, 365 days a year. It's been howling wind and snow, and there are people, and they put on their dry suit and they get in there and surf, and it's kind of mesmerizing to watch. We found it so amazing and such a kind of a tourist attraction, not only to locals, just attraction period, is that we integrated that into our Transatlantic Innovation Week, where we had a laser light show on the water that used artificial intelligence to kind of pick up how the waves moved. And then we'd have surfers, and it would just turn the light into different colors, different shapes. And the purpose of this was to bring kind of this natural phenomenon of water and integrate it with innovative technology and show kind of the power within the art sphere of what artificial intelligence can do and make it accessible to everybody. So you were either surfing through it or you were watching people surf through it. And it brought a whole bunch of people together.
That's interesting.
It was amazing. It was amazing.
That's an interesting way to build a bridge.
And it just shows, kind of you're looking, yes, very good. That's really good, Andreas.
And what do you call it again? What is it called?
Well, it's surfing, but it's done in the Eisbach. It's just the way that the rocks are, the current flows. It's the Isar River, in which the Isar flows from the Alps down through the city and then out, and then it meets the Danube eventually. But through the city, it's been, channeled feats of engineering. And there's one part the water goes under a bridge, and just the way it hits and the pressure creates waves. And people can surf the waves. And people do surf the waves. And it's like this kind of small, I want to say, it's probably a rather large community. And a lot of engineers are out there and physicists. And I think there's this whole kind of, wow, how do we manage this, like taming nature in a bit, and we can use it and find enjoyment out of it. And people like build their own boards. People come from all over the world to surf this. We've actually had world champion surfers in here testing it out and finding it's harder to surf than actual waves in the ocean, just because the currents are so different. And it's kind of watching it, having been a skateboarder, you kind of drop in like you would on a half pipe, and some of the same motions. And it's wonderful to see. You have just as many women out there as men. My daughters come here to watch it, and they're inspired. And my oldest daughter is a surfer, and she's going to try this summer. So I'm very excited. There's it's a really inclusive, diverse community out there, which is amazing. Just another place to connect.
So when you use the public transportation in Munich and you see someone with a surfboard, don't be surprised, even if there's no ocean or no big lake here.
I can imagine world surfers like Bonsai Pipeline, Australia, Munich. You know, now
I see the connection. Right?
rash guards.
And
with
there are
Munich.
no,
That's right.
and there are no sharks in there.
That's right.
That's
Ooh,
right.
that
Pretty
sounds
big
good.
trout, though. I guess that.
Right.
Folks on social media must have gone mad for your light show and laser show that you had.
Oh, it was amazing. We do this Transatlantic Innovation Week every year, and basically what we're trying to do is to look to bring an inclusive, diverse audience together to solve some of our largest challenges: sustainability, environmental challenges, climate change, combating disinformation, and we're always looking for different voices and different ways of doing it. And we always try to bring in artists, and the ones we brought in wanted to say, well, why don't we use one of Munich's, natural/man-made gifts that bring people together, and let's use AI, because everything's talking about artificial intelligence now, and how this kind of goes with one of these big tourist attractions. So we got this laser light show, and the city government was like, what's this all about? I'm like, all right, give it a while, because it's artificial intelligence. It's going to take a while to watch how the surfers surf and the waves, move and have currents there. And it did learn. And then after the second day, we had the Minister of Science and Culture out there. We had the city council member who's in charge of economic development, because they were supporters. They gave us financial support for this. They were amazed, absolutely amazed, because you watched the waves move and the colors change, and then the surfer would go this way and would go blue, and the trees up here would then, also reflect it. It was amazing. It was one of our biggest draws during the whole Transatlantic Innovation Week. It was.
I'm just hoping that there's somebody out there like, I must see that, and they're writing it on their bucket list right
You know
now.
what they need to? They need to come out here, and if they ever want to kind of revisit what we did in Transatlantic Innovation Week, it's all on our Instagram site. So, yeah, US Cons Munich can like us.
Hashtag.
This is really interesting, surfing in downtown Munich. However, we need to wrap up for today, and we will be back in part 2 of our special podcast episode of talking to our Consul General, Timothy Liston.
For more Better in Bavaria podcasts, subscribe, like, and share our episodes. Visit our U.S. Army Garrison Bavaria social media or website to learn more.